Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Andrew Hartman, welcome to the conversation today.
Hey, John, thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Orange County, California. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about how leaders can help their team members better manage their time, be more efficient, effective, things of that nature. Time management is kind of this broad, big umbrella term that often we use and throw around. We're going to try to unpack that, drill down a little bit, and really have some good takeaways today for what we can do today to just make things a little bit easier, a little bit better for ourselves, for our teams as we move forward. As we get started, I wanted to share Andrew's bio with everybody. Andrew Hartman is the founder of Time Boss, an organization that helps leaders and their teams reinvent their relationships with time to get more done with less stress and anxiety. Andrew founded Time Boss after burning out several times, even losing his sense of smell for a season. He has taken all he has learned over the years to build a system that helps business leaders and their teams and avoid the same mistakes and chaos, find their highest sustainable pace. Andrew is a fractional COO with 18 plus years of experience supporting the launch of software and technology startups. I think all that's great. I can certainly relate to the multiple burnout periods.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that, John. It's no fun.
I mean, we churn and churn and churn. And I don't know about you, but it sounds like it's the case with you, but like sometimes you just go and too much, too fast. It's the world we're in. We need to learn how to manage things better and to remember like we're just people and there's only so much we can do. And so anyways, I appreciate you taking the time, willingness to share your wisdom, experiences, and insights with us. Anything you would like to share on the outset, just by way of your background, personal context, before we dive on in?
Yeah, I so appreciate what you shared, John. I think based off the numbers, Gallup's latest numbers, 77% of the people listening to this podcast have experienced burnout in the last 12 months. So it's an absolute epidemic. And when we talk about burnout, we're talking well beyond stress, right? We all feel stress. Stress is part of the game. There's things we care about. We feel tensions about accomplishing those things or relationships that we want to show up for. Burnout is when our body looks at the math and says, there is not enough time. There is no way out of this situation. And in some ways, it's a self-protection action that our body takes to help us. It is subtracting motivation, declaring bankruptcy on our time so that we will figure out a more sustainable way to operate. It's saying we cannot deal with this level of cortisol in our system consistently day after day after day. It will literally kill us. And so our body's just trying to protect us. It's not dissimilar. I love the joke, John, that if you and I just held our breath for the next 2 minutes, our body would make us pass out so that it could start breathing again, essentially saying like, hey, dummy, if you can't operate this thing in the way it's supposed to be operated, I'm going to take over. And that's exactly what burnout is. And people look at it like a failure or a tick mark, or I can't keep up, or look at other people grinding, I can't grind the way you do. That's not it at all. It's your body saying you are absolutely dysregulated. You are far outside a sustainable pace for you, and something's got to change. And so that was really my story. As I mentioned, I was a COO, early stage software companies, venture back, lots of pressure, lots of expectations, short runways. I mean, a pressure cooker for time, like a lot of our worlds are. And again, it's not just early stage startups where this is happening. Gallup's research says 77% of us are feeling this way. But more to do than time to do it, wanted to be successful, wanted to contribute, wanted to participate at a level that I was really proud of. And I burnt myself out in the process. And it was a fascinating experience, John, because I was looking at it and thinking like, golly, like this is so expensive for everybody. This is expensive for my company because they're losing the results that I would deliver because of that burnout. This is expensive for my family. I was the sole provider for my family, so this is a massive risk for them. It was taxing on my health. It was taxing on my relationships. It was good for nobody. And it wasn't just me, it was people underneath me as well, because often we're just operating on our habits related to time, and often the senior leaders defining those habits. And I was defining those habits for our team. And so for me, I just came to the point where I said, I have got to figure out a way to deliver results and subtract that overwhelm, subtract that distress and anxiety that seems so prevalent. And you said it on the front end, John, we all just feel it. We all kind of had just assumed it's the tax on the results we're going to get. It just has to be there. It's just the way it is. And what I discovered in trying to solve this for myself and ultimately solving it is that it's absolutely not required. There is another way. We just have to be shown there's another way.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned the pressure cooker. There's just so many different levels and layers of expectation on us, right?
Right.
You mentioned the work pressures, and oftentimes that's what we attribute to burnout, all the work pressures. And you have, your COO, and you have all these work pressures. But, many of us have families,
Yep.
and so you want to be a good husband, you want to be a good
Yes.
father, and so you recognize and you have those pressures and the work family work life balance issues that you can't be everything to everyone all at once. And so there's just all of that,
Yep.
and sometimes something's gotta give, right?
Yep. Absolutely right.
You just have to recognize that you truly can't burn the candle at both ends always,
Yep.
constantly. Something will give. And literally, like you said, it's a protection mechanism. Your body will give out. And
Yeah.
and when you look around and you're like, why can everyone else do it? Why can everyone else churn endlessly? And why can't I? And then you feel like a failure. Well, first of all, it's not true. Not
Not true.
everyone can't do it. It may seem that way sometimes, but other people are burning out too. We just might be on a different time frame, or people might be abusing substances to try to, you know, allow them to maintain for a while. But eventually, everyone will it'll catch up with them. So it's
Yeah.
just not true. Like you can't look around and just assume everyone else can do it and you can't.
Right.
Um, so
I think that's right. I think in a lot of ways, John, we live in a performative culture. I mean, open up social media, right?
yeah,
And so a wonderful quote I heard is that we walk around comparing how we feel on the inside to how everyone else looks on the outside. And those
yeah,
don't match, right? Like Instagram, if I scroll Instagram, that doesn't look the way I feel on the inside. And so I feel like I'm less than or I can't keep up. And the reality is, I mean, this is why a number of people burn out is they're afraid to raise their hand. They're afraid to say I'm struggling because they think it'll opt them out of the game, right? They think next man up. Someone else is going to take my seat. And so there's all of these pressures that keep us from changing our habits, getting the help we need. We just choose shovel faster. We go back into the hamster wheel and we burn hard all day. We cope at night with whatever drug of choice from ice cream to alcohol to Netflix, you choose, like whatever we're going to choose to get out of our head. And we're not solving our habits. We're just literally trying to get it done one more day, one more day, one more day, and stay in that grind. And I love what you said about family. You are 100% right. And so for me, I would be coming home, I'd be physically present at home, but I was emotionally everywhere else. So many loops were open in my head. I'm sitting on the ground playing trains with my son, Luke, my beloved son. I love this child so much. And emotionally, I'm everywhere else. In the back of my head, I'm answering emails, I'm managing projects. And I mean, it had a massive impact on me. We only have 168 hours. That's it in a week. No, we can't increase that. When I lead time boss workshops, I lead for CEOs often, and the number one thing I hear is, "I just wish I had more time," and we can't. And actually, I don't think it would help people if they had more time, because
no,
I think they would simply expand into that, just like they've expanded into the 24 hours that they have now, and they're feeling that burnout. Our to-do lists are effectively infinite. We all have, on average, based off the research, 121 items on our to-do list all the time. It's like email, like you check them off and more show up. And so simply grinding to the bottom of our email, thinking if we had more time, we could just grind to the bottom of our email is not true. We have to change the way that we think about our to-do lists. We have to change the way we think about our time because those lists are infinite. And you said it on the front end, John, we are finite. And if we don't come to terms with that, burnout is inevitable. And it's just a challenge of the knowledge worker in the modern world. We have 1950s based manufacturing time management habits in an always on 24/7 knowledge working world. And if we don't change our habits to catch up with where society and where the world is at this point, we will burn out.
So what are some of those ways we need to shift our thinking and our habits?
Yeah,
Because yeah, all the time management systems out there are built for a different world,
they are.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to get honest with ourselves that we do have a finite capacity, that there's only so much time. It's a fixed asset. And we do this in many other areas of our life. We do this with cash all the time. So if I have, let's say, $500,000 of capital that I'm trying to deploy into investments to get the highest ROI possible, I only have $500,000. I don't have $550,000. I don't have $1 million. I only have $500,000. And it's obvious to see, right? I look at my bank account or wherever that money might be sitting, and that's it. And so when I get clear on that I only have $500,000, I become very judicious in how I deploy that capital. What are the things that are going to make the biggest ROI, have the biggest impact on the outcomes I'm trying to drive with that capital? Well, our time is no different. We just don't think of it that way. And so to your point, it is a zero sum game. As I give life to work, I take life from family, or I take life from things outside of my community. So I have to decide. This is the idea of time boss, this idea that I am the boss of my future self. I have to make decisions on behalf of my future self to set them up to be successful. If there's only so much time, I need to decide. It really is a choice. How much of my life am I willing to give to work? Now, if you're in a senior leadership position, you're a founder, you may own that choice, right? You could say 20 hours,
Yep.
40 hours, 68 hours, 80 hours, you decide. You may be in a role where you're contractually obligated to give a certain amount of time. But truly there is a limit. And right now, all of our limit is our waking hours. At some point, we must sleep. So we do have the ability to stop. We do have the ability to tell any environment we're in, I'm so sorry, I don't have any more time because I literally have to sleep. And so we will say no for reasons that we think matter. I'm simply saying you need to elevate the reasons that matter. And you need
Mm.
to decide for yourself. And it's totally different per person, right? There are people that go through the Time Boss coaching program that work 80 hours a week doing the best work of their life and their hearts are on fire. They're locked in because the story works for them. The way it fits in their lives, the way it fits in their stakeholders, it works. There's people working 20 hours a week burning out because the story doesn't work. It doesn't work with their stakeholders. It takes more of their life than they want to give. And so each of us has to come to terms with what is our actual capacity. What's powerful about that is if once we come to terms with our actual capacity, again, just like that fixed capital example I used on the front end, $500,000, the same as with time. If I only have 50 hours or 60 hours or 40 hours, again, doesn't matter what that time is. Whatever it is, once I draw that boundary, we then can start almost necessarily making very judicious decisions about what should I actually do with that time. What are the results I'm trying to drive? What are those outcomes, those KPIs, those rocks, EOS, whatever you're working on that is going to move the needle? And how do I ensure that those are the items that are getting to my calendar, not all the fluff and noise that often just crowds our schedule and overwhelms us because we feel like we just have to say yes. We've conditioned ourselves that if someone asks us for it, we have to say yes. We got to show up. We got to be a good teammate. We got to deliver. And it's just not the case.
Yeah. Well, so prioritizing, I think has always been an important part of time management, good
Right.
time management. And it is hard. Like I think especially for people with certain personalities, the yes mentality, that's hard to overcome.
Yeah.
That I have to admit, that's one of the things that I struggle with. I like to be the person to help people. I like to kind of come in and be the fixer and the person that people can look to as and I have to admit, like, there's an ego piece to it, right? Like,
Of course.
I like to be the hero. I like to be the person to come in and help and fix things, and I like to be the person people look to, and all of that. And so some of it is like genuinely I like to help, and some of it's just like I have to admit, like, if I'm truly honest with myself, there's an ego piece to it, right?
Absolutely.
And so I have to be ready and willing to acknowledge that. And if I can't acknowledge that, I don't know if there's any way I'm going to get to the point where I can start to say no and start to set it aside.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I've gotten better over the years at saying no more, prioritizing better, focusing on the things that matter the most, setting aside the things that don't matter as much, and really getting rid of the fluff stuff, like you said. And I think especially like you said, in this day and age of knowledge work, man, we can suck up our whole day
Yeah.
doing stuff that doesn't matter.
And not get to the
So
bottom of the list. Yeah.
so easily, so
Yep.
easily. We can spend our whole day, our whole week doing stuff that doesn't matter, and we don't do anything that gets to like the real stuff on our list.
Right.
And so the yes mentality is in some cases, as admirable as it may be, it's not always as admirable as it may seem, and it really can be very, very detrimental. I don't know,
Right.
thoughts on how do you coach people around
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, and I so appreciate what you said, John. And I was that person. I burnt out for the very same reason. I just wanted to be helpful. I wanted to deliver. It wasn't sinister. I mean, sometimes maybe I wanted to be thought of nicely, but I don't hear that from you either. We care about people. We want to be a good leader, you know. There's all these attaboys that we've received our whole lives for saying yes and showing up. You know, a couple thoughts. One is again, it's zero sum. There's only so much time. And so I think you decide, like you can budget your life, right? Maybe you say, I'm going to give 20% of my day to being helpful. And I'm gonna literally budget that into my day. I'm gonna visibly represent that on my calendar so I don't overbook myself, allowing me to say yes to people if things come up. I think that's certainly a reasonable way to approach it. The other is what you shared of the results you actually want. I think every individual, every team has to get really clear of what they actually want and then be honest with themselves in their calendar, mapping their calendar, aligning their calendar to those goals, to those values to actually make it happen. The power, the one of the things we teach in Time Boss is this weekly planning habit. And really what we're creating is a sober moment to deal with all the trade-offs and say, what is it that I should actually focus on? What you described, John, I feel this tension too. What most people do is they real time decide their priorities in that moment when they're feeling all of these conflicting trade-offs and pressures. And what we often seek in that moment is the thing that's going to give us dopamine the quickest, and that's often just saying yes, right? Or it's going back to our email and answering some email because it makes us feel like we're checking boxes. And so I don't actually think we can always trust our present self to make the best decisions. I think we
Mhm.
need that sober moment to truly understand our priorities. And it's not easy. The reason why people don't deal with priorities is exactly what you said. It's trade-offs. Everything on my to-do list either has a relationship or a result attached to it that I really care about. And a relationship that I care how I show up or a result that I really want. And so I actually have a very emotional relationship with that to-do list. And so as I start prioritizing, as I see that one item sinking down the list, I feel it in the pit of my stomach of like, ugh, like how are we going to deal with that item? It's an emotional process. So again, I think having that sober moment in a weekly ritual to really evaluate your priorities and then map that into your calendar, I think is the healthiest thing that teams can do to make sure that the right things are getting to their calendar and then obviously developing a culture where we follow through on the things that are on our calendar. And we can chat more about how to make that calendar realistic or whatever's helpful. But those are my thoughts in particular about prioritization.
Well, yeah, and let's go there. Making the calendar realistic, because I think that's
Yeah.
also something that people really, really struggle with.
Yeah.
I know it's something I've struggled with in the past.
Yeah, for sure. So there's really three items that runs our world. There's only three items, and I think it's really profound if people can wrap their head around this. So there are one-time tasks, meaning I'm going to do that once and I'm not going to do it again. There are recurring tasks, meaning I'm going to do it daily, I'm going to do it weekly, I'm going to do it monthly, whatever. I'm coming back to it. And often most people express these in the form of meetings where other humans show up. We have team meetings. If you're an EOS, you have an L10. You have weekly or biweekly one-on-ones, those type of things. So one-time tasks, recurring tasks, and unknown tasks. And we don't typically make any room for the unknown tasks, which often causes a bunch of problems. So my recommendation to people when it comes to getting their calendar to reflect reality is actually that they first start by putting personal items on the calendar. And that's things like workouts, lunches, that when you want to be home for dinner, if you're a spiritual person, meditation or prayer, what are those personal things that you value that are going to help you be successful in your day? The language we use in Time Boss is highest sustainable pace. What is the
Mm,
highest impact you can make for the long haul? And I think personal items are critical to that process because they help us stay true to our values. And they're often the things we skip, right? When lots of senior leaders, the one thing they say is when they get busy, they skip workouts and they want to be the type of person that works out. And they know they're actually a better person, they're a better leader when they work out, but it
right.
simply competes for their time. So my first encouragement is you get your personal items to your calendar because Your to-do list is infinite. So you're never going to feel like there's time for those items, right? You're always going to feel pressure to not do those items. So just start with those items. Just get them to your calendar and reflect reality. Next thing I encourage people to do is get recurring tasks to their calendar. And again, most of us already have these on our calendar. If other humans are showing up, we have recurring meetings like team meetings. But there's
Hmm.
so many things we do that are recipes for success for our businesses, such as I do a review of my projects every single week. I have a partnership meeting on 1 p.m. on Friday. I take an hour every week to prep that partnership meeting
Mm.
on Friday morning. I need to represent on my calendar because it takes time. And again, we are starting to look at our time like cash, not credit. There's only so much of it. We can't just keep swiping and saying yes. We're spending with cash. And once that cash is gone, we're done. So get personal items, get those recurring tasks to your calendar. The next thing, so that deals with primary your recurring tasks. I mentioned that other bucket of unknown. I suggest to people that they actually budget for the unknown. The
Mm.
unknown is often urgent and important items that are crashing into our calendar. And the reality is, had we known about those urgent and important items when we planned out our week, we would have budgeted time for them, right? So we're
Yeah.
simply pre-budgeting. I call this whirlwind because it often feels like a whirlwind. It feels a little bit crazy. But I recommend people budget 20 to 40% of their week for Whirlwind. So literally put it on your calendar because if we're getting our calendar to reflect reality, we don't want to overplan. And we need to visually see, hey, I have budgeted time for unknown things to come in. My boss needs me, that VIP client needs me, my partner needs me, people on my team need me, whatever. We know things are going to come crashing into our schedule. And so we're simply budgeting time for that. Now, again, we're dealing with the unknown here. The power of that is you won't always need that time. Sometimes you're going to need all of that time, right? We've all had frenetic days where all kinds of things came crashing in and we needed to deal with them. But you're not going to need that time every day. And when you hit that time and it's not needed, the question you ask yourself is, what is the most valuable thing I can do with this time? And so notice what we're doing when we operate that way, John, is now we're working up to our capacity. We're not starting the week over capacity. We're working up to our capacity to that fixed amount of time that we decided on our calendar. Last thing. So if you think about it now, we've got personal items on our calendar. We've got recurring items on our calendar. We've budgeted for those unknown items that we know are coming. All that's left is focus time. And so you likely, if you're operating this way, you'll likely have slots left on your calendar. And now we're simply mapping in. Remember, we're doing this in a weekly meeting as a habit. We're mapping in what are the highest priority items that are going to fit in the time that we have remaining. And without fail, obviously you can probably do the math in your head. There's going to be things that don't fit. And that's where my encouragement is to individual leaders or to teams that you deal with those items. So what do we do with the items that don't fit? Can we defer them? Can we push them out till next week? They're not going to hurt us if we don't work on them this week. Can we delegate them to someone else? Could I distribute this task to someone else on the team that might still have margin on their calendar? Can I digitize it? Could I get an AI involved that can help me shorten the time it takes this task? Can I downsize it? Maybe I thought it was going to take 8 hours, but I can accept the quality. I can get the same
Mm.
value that I want to get in 4 hours. Maybe I'm just going to need to do it a little bit less and be okay with the quality. Do I need to delete it? Is there stuff left on my list that, like, you know what? With the constellation of items we have going on, it just doesn't fit, and we can no longer do it on our we can no longer consider it a priority. Or maybe someone asked us for it 3 months ago, and they probably even forgot they asked us for it. And we simply need to go back to that person and say, "Hey, is this still a priority? Because I'm feeling the emotional weight of it. Would you be open to us just deleting this?" And sometimes, and this is what no one likes when it comes to this conversation, John, sometimes we just have to do it. So let's say, for me, I budget 50 hours for income generating activities for Time Boss, meaning I'm going to give 50 hours to Time Boss so that I have the rest of my life for my teenage kids, for my wife, I'm involved in my church, I'm involved in my community. So 50 hours is generally my cap. Now I might run this planning process and realize, oh man, I actually need 55 hours next week. It is so much more powerful for me to decide in a sober moment in a planning meeting that I need extra time and expand my time next week very strategically. Calling my wife and saying, "Hey, honey, what night would it work well for you for me to work a little bit later?"
Mm.
Or could I take Saturday morning next week? I'm nervous about this project. Would love to put a little bit more time in. I'm not getting punched in the face with that at Tuesday at 6 p.m. when I realize I'm going to be late for dinner again. I'm actively choosing it. But remember, it all started with me defining my capacity on the front end. There's only so much time, and I'm dealing with the realities of only having so much time. So I think, and again, you'll notice it's very systematic. It's based in habits. And if we can make that our habit week over week, I think we can actually operate at a sustainable pace. And when teams do this together, it is so powerful because now you're dealing with the capacity of that entire team. and you're literally sharing the load to help lift and make that experience happen together. So it's incredibly powerful if you can just look at your time differently than how you have in the past.
I love it. And being proactive and strategic
Yep.
rather than reactive, and frantic, right?
Right.
I love everything about that. Well, Andrew, I know at the time I need to let you get going on with your busy day here, but before we wrap things up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word for today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, best thing is LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great place to connect. We post regularly and have a lot of great content there, a lot of helpful tips that I think would be helpful for you and your team. If you're interested in the model I just described, we do have a 90-minute masterclass where we go start to finish on that model. I am a huge believer that information is free. The reality is, once you learn this model, there's going to be friction in the transition. It's hard to change our habits in anything. And so if you like the model, if you can deal with that friction, lead that friction with your team, go for it. If you need help with implementation, that's where our team gets involved. We can help you very systematically work through that friction in just 6 to 8 weeks. The word for the day, the last encouragement I would give you is that each of us is going to get the life that we choose, or we're going to get the life that we tolerate. And most of us are living and just tolerating the day, saying yes, swiping that credit card, and just getting whatever comes to us. The reality is, the life that we choose is waiting for us. We just have to change our habits related to time, and you can absolutely do it. You can absolutely do it.
I love it. Andrew, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Andrew can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.